Hello everyone, this is Jennifer. So in this video we're going to talk about remedies for breach for a contract. So what is a breach for a contract? Is a breach of contract occurs when one party refuses or fails to perform his or a part of the contract, or by his or her act makes of it impossible to perform is thy obligation under the contract. Basically, very simple meaning, when two parties get into a contract, when one party fails to abide by the rules of the contract or perform the contract, then that is called breach of a contract. For example, A promises B to sell his car at 15,000 on 31st March. But on 31st March, before 31st March, A fails to sell his car or refuses to sell his car to B, or you can take it as B refuses to pay 15,000. So at that time the contract will not be performed. So that time is called nothing but breach of a contract, failing to perform a contract. In breach of contract, the aggrieved party gets a right to proceed against the parties at fault. Aggrieved party is nothing but when the other person fails to perform the duties of a contract, the person who has suffered or who has got damaged due to the contract or who has a loss due to the contract has a right to proceed against the other party for not performing the contract. Okay, so ways to breach of a contract. So breach of a contract may arise in two ways. One is the anticipatory breach and the other one is actual breach. Anticipatory breach is nothing but it occurs when a party declares his intention of not performing the contract before the performance is due. Okay, so therefore when a party refuses to perform a contract even before it is due for performance, it is called anticipatory breach. For example, before performing the contract itself, I tell I cannot perform the contract, or I cannot sell my particular car to the agreed party, or I cannot pay the particular amount for buying the car from the agreed party before the contract comes into the picture, or before the contract date comes into picture, is known as anticipatory breach. So anticipatory breach is of two types. One is when a party to a contract has refused to perform his premise, meaning to tell has refused to do his activity. That is one way. The other way is when a party to a contract has disabled himself from performing his promise in his entreaties. To put this in an example, for example, A has promised B that he is going to sell his particular car for 15,000 on 31st March. Okay, we'll take the same example. So other time what happens, B has informed to pay him 15,000 and he has agreed to sell his car for 15,000 to be on 31st March. So one kind is not performing the act before his premises, meaning to tell A at the time of performing the contract or at the time of delivering the car has refused to deliver the car. That is one case. The other case is instead of delivering the car for 15,000 for B, he has delivered it for 30,000. Okay, so this is the second instance, not abiding by the rules of the contract. So there are two types. One is when a party to a contract has refused to perform, or when a party to a contract has disabled himself from performing his promise but in his entreaties, meaning to tell selling at a higher price or making changes in the contract. So these are the two kinds of anticipatory breach. The other way of breaching a contract is actual breach. So in actual breach may be of two kinds. One is on due date of performance, the other one is during the course of performance. So on due date of performance, a party to a contract refuses or fails to perform his part of the contract at the time fixed for performance. So meaning to tell, same example I will take again and again. A has told B that he is going to sell his car for 15,000 for B on 31st March, but on 29th or 30th of March, A is telling he's not going to deliver the car. So that is a on due of performance in actual breach. Just before or just during the due date of performance, he is refusing to perform. The second instance in actual breach is during the course of performance. So a party has performed a part of the contract and refuses or fails to perform the remaining part of the contract. So put this in an example. A has told B that he is going to deliver 100 hens on 31st March for 1 lakh. Okay. So and B has told okay for it. A has delivered 500 hens to B, whereas the remaining 500 he has not delivered and he is refusing to deliver. So that will become actual breach during the course of performance, meaning half is performed, the rest half is not performing. Okay. So the breach of contract remedies. So the breach of contract remedies. So when the breach of a contract occurs, the aggrieved party, the party who has a loss, or the party for whom there is a loss of not being performed for the contract by the other party. For example, A and B get into a contract. A does not perform the obligations of the contract, then B is being the aggrieved party because A has not performed the contract. B is being hurt or he's been in a loss, so he becomes the aggrieved party. So aggrieved party is entitled to the following suits under the court of law. So the first one is sue for rescission of the contract. So when a contract is broken by one party, the other party may sue for rescission and refuse further performance. So in such a case, the aggrieved party can resolve the contract for his obligation under the contract or is absolved of all his obligations under the contract. So there are two cases under this. So when the contract is voidable at the option of the plaintiff, the court grants rescission to the plaintiff. For example, A sells a field to B, okay, and while selling his field to B, B does not have the knowledge about the pathway or the passage over the field which has a problem in the field. So B can take the case to court on A and tell that B, even having personal knowledge about the field, still has sold the field to B, which is a fraud, which is kind of a fault. So at that time B is entitled to have the contract removed. Okay. So, or the second instance, when the contract is unlawful for causes not apparent on its face and the defendant is more likely to blame than the plaintiff, the court may grant rescission. So at that time, for example, there is a unlawful contract that is entered by A and B, okay, and B brings A to court of law for breaching the contract, but it's an unlawful contract. At that time, A has a right that it is an illegal contract, so A has more right to sue B in the court of law. Second one is sue for damages. So the party who is aggrieved by the breach of contract may bring an action for damages. Damages can mean compensation in terms of money for the loss suffered for the aggrieved or the injured. So there are rules for regarding damages. The first one is the principle of remoteness of damage. So remoteness of damage, every breach of contract upsets many a settled expectation of the injured party. For example, A and B get into an agreement. A tells B that he is going to supply rice to B. okay, but he supplies impure rice instead. So it is a breach of a contract. At this time, the customer who buys the rice suspects the rice and reports it to the inspector, and the shopkeeper is being arrested. At that time, the loss of rice, the loss of profit, the loss of personal prestige, and the prestige of his business, everything is under B. Okay. Besides, of course, there's a loss of time, money, energy, waste, everything is there. So if you see, there's a lot of damage, there is no end to the liability at all. So at that time, there must be an end to the liability, and beyond, if there is no end to the liability, is called remote, and which is not recoverable. But there needs to be an end to the liability. The problem should always be decided on a limit. Okay, he cannot bring back the prestige of B, but still he can pay B or compensate B in different ways. So this is nothing but remoteness of damages. And also there are different kinds of losses that aggrieved party undergoes. So the first one is the general damages. So general or ordinary damages are those which arise naturally in the course of breach. So the defendant is liable for the reasonable foreseeable consequences of the breach. The second one is the special damages. Special damages are those which arise on account of unusual circumstances. Okay, general damages is a normal damages which occurs in the normal course of the contract while not performing. Special damages are damages which are unaware about the parties, but still there are damages like loss of prestige, loss of business. All these are special damages which cannot be under the knowledge of the parties, but which occurs due to the breach of the contract. So the second kind of damage is compensation and no penalty is damage. So damages for breach are given by way of compensation for the loss suffered by the aggrieved party and not for the purpose of punishing the defendant for his breach. Maybe sometimes there are instances wherein people are not being able to perform the contract at the time of contract. At that time, you cannot punish the party for not performing the contract. But for whatever the damage has happened, you need to compensate the party. So that is one of the rules of damage. Third one is nominal damages, wherein the plaintiff is nothing but the person who brings the particular case to the court. Okay, wherein the plaintiff suffers no loss, the court may still award him nominal damages in recognition of his right. So meaning to tell, there are no actual financial losses, but still a small amount of money should be given for not performing the contract by the other party. So compensation and no penalties. Damages for breach are given by way of compensation for the loss suffered by the plaintiff and not for the purpose of punishing the defendant for his breach. I again repeat this point because of the sound problem. So compensation sometimes will be given for the person who brings the case to the court, not for basically punishing the other person. Okay, just for the loss that he has occurred. For example, A and B get into a contract, B is not able to perform the contract, A brings the case to the court. At that time, not just for punishing B we are compensating A, but for the loss occurred by A we are compensating A. The third one is the nominal damages. Nominal damages wherein the plaintiff is nothing but the one who brings the case to the court. Plaintiff suffers no loss, the court may still award him nominal damages in recognition of his right. So even though he nominal damages when the other person is not able to perform the contract, okay, so at that time there are no damages, there are no losses occurred by both the parties, but still we need to compensate for the person who is expecting for performing the contract. Okay, so nominal damages when the plaintiff suffers no loss, the court may still award him nominal damages in recognition of his right. Point number 4, mental pain, space and suffering. So in the normal circumstances, damages for mental pain and sufferings are not allowed, but damages are allowed in exceptional cases. Sometimes the court will definitely not hesitate in avoiding damages which are very, very severe in cases. So if the person undergoes a very, very bad mental distress because of the contract not being accomplished, at that time, for that the court will compensate. Point number 5 is duty to mitigate. The injured is expected to make reasonable efforts to avoid the losses resulting from the breach so that his loss is kept to the minimum. So the injured should always be expected to avoid his losses. Just because I'm going to get compensated in the court, you cannot keep your losses amount to the maximum level. Keep your losses to amount to the minimum level. Point number next, point number 6. Point number 6 is liquidated damages and penalties. It is somewhat unusual for the parties to a contract to state in the contract that on its breach a certain specified sum will become payable as damages. Such a sum may amount to either liquidated damages or penalties. In the contract itself, some people who are very, very cautious will make a rule telling that if the contract is not performed at the so and so specified date, this will be considered as a compensation or a penalty amount. So they'll specify the amount in the contract itself. So at that time, that liquidated damages or penalty amount will be compensated. Okay, so the next one is statutory damages, where damages are payable in terms of a statutory provision. The Supreme Court has held the provision applicable would be one that is in force at the time of cause of action and not that was in force when the agreement was made. So maybe the time changes, and whatever is estimated amount, whatever is estimated in your contract will not be the same when the time changes after the 1 year. Okay, so that statutory damage also will be considered. For example, to put this in an example, the plaintiff husband was killed by someone and the policy amount during the loss of life was told 20,000. So when the accident took place, the amount was raised to 50,000. So the court will tell them to give the amount of 50,000. That is a revised figure because of the time changes. Okay, difficulty of assessment. Any difficulty in assessing damages shall not prevent the injured party from recurring them. So the court must do at its best to determine the amount of damages. So moving on, so these are the various rules for damages which comes under the second point of sue for damages. So we're moving on to the third point under breach of contract remedies, which is sue for injunction. So an injunction is an order of the court directing a person to do or refrain from doing some act which is a subject matter of the contract and which a party undertakes to do or not to do so. On breach of the contract, court can restrain a party by an order of injunction from committing the breach. So injunction, sue for injunction is basically an injunction is an order which is sent by the court telling that the person should do the contract or should not do the contract. So it is a sue for injunction. If the person is not done it, then the other person can sue them for the court of law. The fourth point is sue upon quantum merit. So quantum merit is another remedy available for a party to a contract on its breach. Often it is so happens that one party to the contract has performed part of the promise and fails to perform the remaining part, but the other party has committed a breach. The first party must therefore be compensated for the part he has performed. This is called the doctrine of quantum merit, which means as much as merited or as much as earned or deserved. So till whatever is performed, for that you need to compensate. Point number 5, which is sue for specific performance. Sue for specific performance is the last available to the aggrieved party. So at that time, meaning to tell, you cannot compensate the other party for the damages. So the court orders to compel the party in breach to do what he has promised. So to do what he has promised, but unlike damages, specific performance cannot be claimed as a matter of right. It is a discretionary which is allowed in limited cases. Thank you.